Hello booktube, it's Leah Cooper here, and today I'm bringing you my March TBR. So I like doing TBRs just because it gives a roadmap for what I should be doing, and I like to organize them kind of in a list, in order, especially when I have like an arc that needs to get read. So even though I don't always necessarily follow them 100% strictly, I think I usually get at least half the things on my TBR. This month, I'm going to be mostly focusing on reading things for the BookTube SFF Awards, though there are a few books I'm going to put on this list that aren't, for a few reasons. So, first up, I'm currently reading Nevermore, The Trials of Morgan Crow. It's the first Morgan Crow book. I was really wanting to finish this in February, but it didn't happen. I'm like 30% into this. Really liking it, really enjoying it. The second book's been nominated at the BookTube SFF Award, so I decided to go ahead and try the first book. Really glad I did. I think it's really charming. The writing's great. It's a really breezy middle grade book. Like it definitely reminds me of like the easy breezy writing style of the first Harry Potter book. So I do think it'd be really great so far for young readers. Obviously, I haven't read the end, so we'll see how I think the author ties everything up. But the world building's interesting, and I like the fact that the world in this book is not our world. I appreciate that. And also it's got technology and like magic and like steampunky magic elements. Kind of reminds me, or at least it makes me think of BioShock. We'll see how accurate that is as the story progresses, but that's my initial reaction. So reading that currently. And I also have Wondersmith, the something of Morgan Crow. I don't know what the catchphrase is in that book. It's the sequel, and this is the book that's been nominated in the BookTube SFF Awards. I have this out from the library, so I'll be reading it after I finish Nevermore. And the next thing I plan on reading is String City by Graham Edwards. I have an arc of this from NetGalley, and it comes out March 5th, so I do really need to get to this soon. It's about, I'm just going to read like a bit of the summary from Goodreads. In an interdimensional city full of gods, living concepts, and weirder things. And the detective is a string walker. In other words, someone who's able to jump between realities. It's being put out by, Solaris. Solaris is a division of Rebellion. And I like a lot of their books. I always keep an eye on what new releases they have coming out. And I read the summary for this one. Like, fantasy detective noir type thing. Well, maybe it's like fantasy sci-fi because multiple realities. Noir detective, that sounds totally like my jam. So I requested an arc, and I'll be reading that pretty soon. Look for a review in the first weekish of March. I probably won't have it out on the publication date, but within a week of the publication date. The next thing I want to read is another book that's been nominated in BookTube SFF Awards, and that's Monstrous Volume 3. I've already read Volumes 1 and 2 last year and year before when they came out. I enjoyed them. I didn't like number 2 as well as number 1, so I'm hoping number 3 kind of is a little bit more mysterious, I guess. Though we did learn a lot in book 2, so I'm excited to read this. I already had this out from the library before the BookTube SFF Awards were even announced. The next 2 things I want to read are also nominees in the BookTube SFF Awards. First one's going to be Calculating Stars by, oh god, I always say her name wrong, Mary Robinette Cowell. This is a science fiction adult novel about like an alternative 1950s, I think, dystopia where I think humanity needs to like escape Earth because of the climate's inhospitable, and I think it's got kind of like a Hidden Figures-esque theme to it with like lots of lady characters, so I'm excited for that. I'm also going to be reading Beneath the Sugar Sky by Shauna McGuire. This third book in the Read Weird Children's series. Everyone's read this or knows about it or whatever. I don't know what this one's exactly about. I haven't really liked the first 2, but since this one was nominated, I figured I'd give Shauna McGuire one last chance before I completely write her off, because I've only read 2 of her novellas. So, and probably I should try one of her novels instead, but since this was nominated and it was available at my library, I'm gonna go ahead and give it a go. And also, I like having novellas to break up longer books, and String City and The Calculating Stars are both longer adult novels, so I can break them up with like a novella or like a comic. I like that. I'm also currently listening to an audiobook, which is Oversea Under Stone by Susan Cooper. This is a classic piece of 60s children's fantasy fiction. It's the first book in the Dark is Rising sequence, series, whatever you want to call it. I'm listening to this on audiobook. I read this as a kid, and it was one of my favorite fantasy books as a kid, and I want to see how it holds up reading it as an adult. And also, I just have found that I really love listening to middle grade fantasy on audio. I think it's fun. The narrator for this one's pretty hilarious because he does do voices for the kids and those are quite lolsy, but he's doing a good job. I think it's Alex Jennings as the narrator. So I'm not very far into it, but I'm going to be listening to that. Once I finish that, I do have another audiobook on hold. I have the audio for Record of a Spaceborne Few. This has also been nominated in the adult science fiction category of the BookTube SFF Awards. And as I mentioned in my TBR, I barely got through the first book on audio. I'm 100% going to be listening to this on audio because I think it'll be the only way I get through it. If you can hear someone coughing in the background, I apologize. The walls in this house are real thin. Anyways, I've got this on hold. I don't know if I'll get it. I'm pretty high up on the list for it. There aren't a ton of people waiting ahead of me, so I'm hoping I get it like near the end of the month. Though whether or not I finish it by the end of March, we'll see. I also have a hold on Ship Beyond Time by Heidi Heilig. I was listening to this in February and I lost my loan on it. It expired and I couldn't check it out again because I didn't have internet for a week and it got checked out by someone else. So I'm on hold for this. I'm like number 2 or number 3 on this, so I don't know if it'll come in. If it comes in, it is a priority just because I was halfway through the story and I want to know how it ends. You know, it's one of those situations. So, oh yeah, I was kind of looking at the page count for all of this stuff. The page count overall is a little bit low. Assuming I get through all of that stuff, I wanted another short read. And I wanted something, I was thinking about this the other day. I've been reading a ton of fantasy and science fiction, and I kind of want something to break that up. I'm tentatively putting The Hours by Michael Cunningham on my TBR. This is, oh, and this is the other thing. I wanted to read at least one book off my from my physically owned collection. And so this is, well, it's not contemporary anymore because I do think this came out in like 2000. This was published in 2002. It was contemporary at the time, and it's about 3 women. One of them being a woman who's inspired by Mrs. Dalloway. One of them being Virginia Woolf. That's Virginia Woolf. This is the movie cover, obviously. And another woman from the 50s, I believe, who's very unhappy in her marriage, and how their lives, despite everything, sort of interweave and influence one another. And I love the movie. It's got Meryl Streep and Nicole Kidman and, oh shoot, I'm forgetting her name, Julianne Moore. And I love the movie, and I've always wanted to read the book because I want to say this was, I keep looking at the cover, sorry. This literally won the Pulitzer Prize, so people like it. So yeah, I'm tentatively putting this on my TBR as a way to break up the longer books because I do have a bunch of longer fantasy and longer science fiction books I need to read for the BookTube SFF Awards. Obviously, a couple of them are on this month's TBR, and then a couple of them I'll be reading in April. And so I was kind of thinking this might be a good thing to read at the end of the month to break up the 2 months. So yeah, that's everything. This is one of those TBRs I hope to get to everything I've mentioned, and I hope to maybe pick up 1 or 2 other things, just because I do want to be pushing myself to read closer to like 2,000 pages a month. I think that'd be a really good pace. I haven't quite hit that yet, but that's kind of what I'd like to do for the year. Let me know what you're looking forward to reading in March. And if you've read any of these books, or if you're planning on picking them up, are you going to be doing any of the read-alongs for the BookTube SFF Awards? Also, I will be doing reviews. Definitely The Calculating Stars, and definitely Beneath the Sugar Sky. Possibly Record of a Spaceborne Few if I get to it, just because I do want to do individual or joint reviews for BookTube SFF Awards. Since I'm not going to be reading Binti, and I've already read the other book, Artificial Condition, from this category, I'll be doing a review by itself. And then Actually, I think Record of a Spaceborne Few is nominated in the same category. These are the two adult books I plan to read because I don't plan on reading the Schwab. So if I get both of those read, this and Record of a Spaceborne Few, I'll do a joint review. There we go. So look forward to that. Yeah. Anyways, thank you for watching. As always, if you enjoy any of my content, be sure to hit that subscribe button and let me know. And I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.